It's May and the Fish River hike has started. I think we're on about group 19, group 20 now, and already there's been a helicopter evacuation. So I thought we should just go through a few points because with a lot of our customers do hike the Fish River Canyon. We've already had a few people saying, is there not enough water in the canyon to survive? Are they going to cancel the hike? And a lot of answers that this video might help. Now, also referring to some of the comments from some of the groups on some of the Facebook groups that we follow, to give you an idea of what's going on. First of all, it was particularly hot this last week. The daytime temperatures in the canyon have been up to 40 degrees. Now, that is quite typical. It was particularly hot this last week, but you do have to be prepared. It is hot in the canyon. That's why it's not hiked in the summer months, because it's too hot. And of course, we're just coming off the summer now into the winter. So you're still at quite a hot time of year. So it is going to be hot. You need to prepare for that. Always wear a hat, always keep hydrated. And this, of course, is where the point comes in. Hydrated, water. Because through the Fish River hike, it's 5 days, you carry everything on your back, including your water and all your food, everything you want to take with you. So first of all, your fitness levels and carrying that amount, you have to train beforehand. The Fish River hike is not a day stroll in the park. And this is a problem that's coming up more and more over the last few years, where people are not preparing enough to go on the hike. Because the hike itself physically is fairly simple. The first day you start at the Hobas end. 10 kilometers from Hobas is the starting point, with the highest point of the canyon, where you descend from the hiking point. You go down a series of chains, almost like a cliff. It's fairly easy to go down, but it's slow going, quite steep. You have to watch your ankles. That's actually the toughest physical day in terms of technique of getting of the hike. And you spend a good part of the first part of your hike going down into the canyon before you get. From then onwards, the actual hike itself is fairly easy. It's all flat on the ground. You go up and down a little bit. You'll go around a few rocks. The surface does vary a lot. You've got some sandy patches, some damp patches, which you like, some very hard rock patches, so you do have to watch your ankles. But that, of course, lulls people a lot into a false sense of security. It's not like you're climbing a big mountain, which you have to train for the high altitude and climbing all the time. But we are just not accustomed to carrying about 20 kilos on our back every day, all day, while walking. And the second factor is the heat in the canyon. All year, even coming into the winter months, it will cool down a little bit in the next few months. But the daytime temperature is still going to be hot. There's no shade in the canyon. There's no trees to hide behind. And the sun bakes down in the canyon and the heat bounces around. Because you've got the canyon walls, the heat bounces around, the ground is hot. So it's going to be hot. So particularly if you're not used to hot weather, but even if you are used to hot weather, you do need to do some sort of physical preparation for your body to cope with that, as well as a good hat and a well broken in pair of walking shoes. Training shoes don't really cut it. You can do it in training shoes. I've seen people doing it in flip-flops. I've walked the canyon about 80 times. I've never had a problem. I used to do it with guests. I used to be a guide in Namibia, so I used to take people through several times a year, every year. But there's a few things that people don't quite get right. One is preparation. Preparing for the heat, preparing yourself physically, because you are carrying everything on your back. The biggest thing you need in the whole hike is water. And this is what the whole emergency situations and problems are generally all centered around. Nobody falls off the canyon and gets squashed or gets eaten or gets bitten or those sort of things. They are really incredibly rare. Most of it is dehydration. So you have to carry water. Sometimes you're walking 20 to 40 kilometers carrying that water with you, and it's between water points or between where there's pools of water. So you have to physically prepare to be able to carry that amount of water. Now, as an average guide, 1 litre, here's my litre mug, it's got coffee in it, not water. 1 litre of water weighs 1 kilo. And as a guide, a general rough guide, I would recommend starting each day with a minimum of 7 litres of water in your water bottles. That's 7 kilos. If you can carry a bit more, even better. I used to carry 10 litres because I was a guide, so I did have to have some extra. But it meant I had to cut down on other things that I took with me, because you have to take your food, your fuel. You can't you can't set a fire in the canyon. You're not allowed to do that. So you have to take a stove and anything to cook, already prepared meals, which you can vacuum pack. But so all these things you have to take with you. Now, for an average person, even of good fitness, carrying 20 kilos on your back while you're hiking the canyon in the heat is a lot. If you're stripping off 7 kilos of that to have fresh water every day, that means your normal bag that you're preparing and wearing before you go on the hike, again, part of the preparation, prepare before you go, you want to make no heavier than 10 kilos. So apart from water, everything else you're going to take with you, spare socks, first aid, cameras, batteries, food, preparation for cooking, a couple of change of clothes, should weigh 10 kilos or less. Now, that sounds great until you start packing it and prepping it and realizing 10 kilos of stuff isn't very much, because you're still going to add 7 kilos of water to that. So you're still at 17 kilos, which is tough hiking. It's going to hurt on your shoulders, you're going to sweat, it's going to rub. Any lighter would be better. So the least you can do. Now, I've seen people take full tents down there. I never take a tent. I take a roll-out mat to put on the ground, and I take a lightweight muslin mozzie net, that because you can get mosquitoes down there, that I actually just drape over myself and tuck in under the side to stop the mosquitoes coming in. That's how I sleep every night. It's beautiful down there. Because I'd rather have extra litres of water than even a lightweight tent for 2 is a couple of kilos. And you've got to lug it out and forget it. Just put a roll-up mat, a light mosquito net to cover you. You're less than a kilo between them. That's another kilo of water you can carry instead. The other thing, apart from preparation and carrying lots of water, is when you hike. Now, this one group, not dissing on any of the groups that have gone there, because different people have different ideas. But the last group that got helicoptered out, basically they said, well, we were starting at 7 a.m. every morning to walk in the cool of the day. And that is how you do Fish River Canyon. You start early in the morning, you don't walk during the heat of the day, and you walk in the late afternoon into the evening. But 7 a.m. for hiking in the canyon is not early morning. When I take my groups, I start getting up at 3:30 in the morning. I prepare breakfast for my group, and everybody's ready to go by 4 a.m. So we walk usually the first 2 to 3 hours before the sun comes up. And it is light enough, because even though you're in the canyon, often there's beautiful starlight. You should be walking while there's still starlight on your next day. And often the light, even though it's not coming over the horizon, there's enough light bouncing around that you can actually see. So you should be starting your hike 4 to 5 a.m. at the latest. So you can actually have 2, 3, 4 hours in before the sun is in the canyon, because you've got the other advantage. And this is why a lot of people start later. If you start at 7 a.m., you're probably not going to have the sun shining on you till about 9 a.m., especially in August. But it's still going to go up. But if you start at 4 a.m., you can get 5 to 6 hours hiking before the sun is beaming into the canyon and shining on you and bouncing off the rocks, which means you can get 2 to 3 hours good hiking in the nice, cool, fresh air. Everybody's fresh. You cover a good amount of ground. Then you stop, have a water point drink, have an energy snack. Dried fruit is really good. It's fairly light to carry. You just nibble on it all the way. You're basically nibbling, drinking all the way, all the time, to keep hydrated. It's much more difficult to get hydrated after you're dehydrated than to stay hydrated. So keep drinking. But that's if you're only carrying 2 litres of water. 2 litres of water is going to be gone, and then you're going to be sipping at it and you're going to get dehydrated. So get up early, really early, in the dark. Walk the first 2 to 3 hours in the dark. Then as the sun's coming over the canyon, then you have a break. You enjoy the beauty of the moment as you see the sun streaming across the top of you. It's not in the canyon yet, but you can see it shining above. It's a really beautiful moment. That's when other groups are just getting up. Then you've got another 2 to 3 hours where you can hike without the sun being in the canyon. That's when you're looking for your water spot, your next water point at that time. You're either looking for natural pools, or you're looking for one of the water points that the NWR say that they're putting in to top up your water. And that brings me on to the next thing, the water points. Now, if you're looking for natural water in the canyon, through the years the canyons are getting drier and drier, and now, I don't know if people are aware, as from last year, a new dam has been put on the Fish River between Hardap, where the water usually flows through, into the canyon. So there's even less water coming through the canyon each year. So the canyon is not going to get any more water than it is now, unless there's exceptional rains for some reason. So people have got to adjust to the water that's there. There's not going to be the same water flowing through. The big pools are never going to come back to the same way, as standard. So the water, it's not fit to drink straight from the pools. It's been laying there. Even if you're early in the season, lots of people have hiked through it, swam in it, put their feet in it, washed in it. The animals have gone through it. You can't just drink it. You can't just use homemade filtering things either. If you're going on this trip, please take it seriously, because the bad press that is coming from all these people that need helicoptering out is going to start restricting Fish River Canyon again. When I started hiking Fish River Canyon, no quips about my age, it was in the 90s, only guided trips were allowed to go through the canyon, and there was only one trip per week allowed to go through. There was less demand there as well. And there was never any problems. But we took it seriously. We prepared in advance. Not only did you just have to get your medical certificate, we actually made sure that the people who were on the hike were properly equipped and were used to the heat and carrying stuff. But also, we used to take a proper filtration system. Now, in a group, you only need one, but invest in a filtration system. The one we use is a silver and iodine and mesh filter system. It packs up, I must bring it in for you, to quite a small size. It weighs 500 grams, so half a kilo, so that's another extra bit of weight, and the water takes a bit to filter, but that one system can filter water for the whole group for your whole trip. And then you have good clean water, because you can buy tablets as well, which is an even lighter way, like chlorinated tablets that you put in, and they will basically kill anything in the water. But you have to be careful with those, because they can give you an upset tummy, and the water tastes horrible as well. So the other thing is to buy powdered drinks, is another tip. If you want to use tablets, buy powdered, that you can put into water, just to take away from the horrible flavour and give you another extra little bit of boost. You are going to sweat 3+ litres a day just walking the canyon. So you need to replace that plus more to let your body and muscles replenish for the next day. So take a filtration system or take tablets. Don't make homemade things or scoop it out the water or think, well, I can boil the water for so many minutes and it'll do that, because there's several problems with boiling water. One, you then have to carry the stove and the extra fuel to boil lots of water for however many people in your group. So there's those extra things and extra time, because then you boil the water, then you have to let the water cool, and then you drink it, and depending on the size of the pan, rinse and repeat. Also, boiling water, even for several minutes, and this is the other thing, people don't realise that boiling water for 2 to 3 minutes is barely touching a lot of the stuff that's in there. Now, the stuff that's in the water in Fish River Canyon is not going to kill you, but it's going to upset your tummy, because it's got different microbes and bacteria in it that you're just not used to having daily, especially when you come from a city when our water is over. I mean, I live in South Africa. When I turn on the tap here, when I do have water, I can smell the chlorine and the chemicals in the water. I mean, it's like, it's like it is so chemicalized. We're used to drinking I don't drink the tap water here. I buy water to drink. So we're so used to such well purified water, we're not exposed to the germs. You go into Fish River Canyon, you either put in the tablets, they will upset your tummy, or you boil it just for a little while. 2 to 3 minutes is not enough to kill anything in the water. You actually need to boil water for 7 to 10 minutes, and even then you've probably only got rid of 50 to 70% of the bacteria and things in the water. So boiling water is not an effective way of getting good, clean, healthy drinking water. You need filtration and or tablet system. So that then makes a big difference, because if you start to get a little bit hydrated, or if you get a tummy bug on a hike, it's horrible for many, many reasons. Also, as soon as you get a tummy bug, you get diarrhea, you get more dehydrated, you have to drink more, the cycle goes on, and it gets bad very quickly. Dehydration is dangerous, so you do have to get against it. Preparation, taking the extra things, lighten your load, carry plenty water. So that's basically the advice I can give you. So since the hike that I think it was hike 8 and 9, or 9 and 11, I can't remember, got taken out by helicopter. And to be fair, they'd made it most of the way down. They were actually quite close. They were on day 4 of the day 5. But from their post, I haven't spoken to them personally. I don't think they're my guests, although I might hear from them on Monday. They spend a lot of time walking backwards and forwards trying to find water points and things, and I think, yeah, some of them got in a bit of a state. They got dehydrated, they got a bit of diarrhea, that cycle carried on. They never ran out of water, but I believe they got tight on it, which of course means they were probably rationing it. Now, they didn't say how much water they were carrying on each day. But as I say, the problem is when you fill a thing of water, I mean, you take a 5 litre can, that's heavy, and then you sling it on your back. You think, oh, do I need to take all that? You know, and most of the people I see going on a hike, now the way I do it is that I used to do it with my customers, is I would actually take a 5 litre bottle of water, and I would actually give one to each of my clients and say, this must be full before you start your hike each day and in your backpack. And I would carry 2 of those and my own drinking bottle. So I would carry 11 litres of water every day. But that was my responsibility as the group leader and the guide. And I would physically check that each of them had filled that and put it in their pack before we set out each morning. And there was never a day, and I had European guests, so they weren't so adjusted to the heat, but there was never a day that they didn't drink those 5 litres before the end of the day. And the other thing is, at every water point, you top up your water. So even if you've been walking 20 minutes and you come across water and you've drunk half a litre of water, what you then do is you stop, you guzzle as much water as you can, comfortably, you filter, top up, walk on with full water bottles. That way, if you do miss a water point or you do go a bit astray, you're nicely hydrated and you've got a good water supply. That's my bit of a rant for that. But yes, preparation is the key, and I don't like people going there and not having a good time. It is a fantastic hike. It is beautiful down in the canyon. And I really do have a lot of empathy for those people who are unwell on the hikes for one reason or another, especially getting dehydrated. It can make you feel so awful. But the other thing with getting dehydrated, it affects your brain, because our brains run on water. As soon as we start dehydrating, our brains don't work as effectively. We don't make such wise decisions. So yes, I want everybody to go and enjoy the hike, talk to others, encourage other people to do it, but prepare for the hike. Please, please, please prepare for the hike. For the rest of my guests, because I've already seen that other groups have chipped in afterwards and basically said, oh, we hiked it after you and it was perfectly fine. We found water here, here and here. There is still water there. There is water points put in. It is still walking. There's no talk at the moment, both from NWR or the MEFT. They're the people the MEFT actually have the final decision as to whether the canyon stays open or not. That's the Ministry of Environmental, Forestry and Tourism. So they're the ones who actually manage the national parks. So they actually have the final decision as to whether it's suitable or not. At the moment, They've gone through and say, yes, the water points have been put in. They will be topped up as much as possible by NWR. But there is still enough sufficient water in the canyon. So, I think we're up to about group 18, group 19 through now, and there's been no other instances with any other groups, and a lot of groups have chipped in and said, nope, we found water. But again, two things. They were a bit more prepared. They didn't try and do it quickly, although I don't think the other groups did too. And they stopped at water point. But one of the key things I did notice of many of the more experienced, because the group that got into trouble, they were an experienced group. I think there was, between the group of a dozen, they'd done the canyon 30 times. But again, just the odd things catch you out. An early start for 7 a.m. is not an early start. Carrying plenty of water and topping up your water all the time, essential. And some people just get caught out sometimes. It can happen. And let's just face it, as modern world progresses, we're getting softer. We just, don't suck it up, cupcake. We're not. Life in general does not prepare us for something like the Fish River hike. It's not a normal thing to do. So you do need to do that bit of extra preparation to make sure you're ready for it. The heat, the carrying on the back. The biggest killer is carrying the weight on your back. And it's an easy thing to take, I have met people who have a 1 litre water bottle trying to do that hike. Now that is just asking for trouble. It's like minimum 5 litres to take. But of course, that's 5 kilos of weight. And people are like, oh, it's a lot to carry on my back. Well, practice beforehand. You generally have to, you don't just turn up and say, I'm going to do the hike this afternoon. You prepare beforehand. Same as you should prepare your walking shoes. You should get your socks, your walking shoes. You should be wearing them 6 months before the hike. Every weekend to break them in, to make sure you have no blisters and they're nice and comfortable and nice and supple and your feet are tough and ready to go for the hike. Same as your hat. I mean, I've seen people who, it's actually quite good for the little shop at Hobart. It's got 1 or 2 knickknacks for sale and some souvenirs. Their bestseller is hats. I can't believe the number of people who get there and don't have a hat. And just keeping the sun off your head, because really, preparation, please prepare. For all the people who are thinking of cancelling or postponing, I can't see it getting better in any more years. With the new dam that's been put upriver, there is less water coming through. Now the dam is now, it's a new dam, and the dam is now pretty much full, so they are going to start to let more water through the canyon. So it might get a bit better next year, but it's never going to go back to the days when you could swim through parts of the canyon. I remember some of the groups in some of the good raining years, in some of the years of good rain, at the end of the day, we found like massive pools of water that were deeper, 2-3 meters deep that we could swim in, which is really beautiful. Sorry, they deafened you there. Those days are probably not going to come back. Water is going to be an issue now. Whether it'll be taken in hand going forward with NWR will potentially put permanent water points in, I don't know. But at the moment, people are still hiking it. Most groups are going through fine, but I can't believe we're this early in May and already 2 groups have been helicoptered out. Last year was a record season of people being taken out of the canyon. And as far as I can tell, the 2 reasons that most people are now having problems in the Fish River Canyon is they're underestimating it. Underestimating the heat, the water, and they're not preparing enough. And partly I do sort of, not blame, but think that it should go back to tougher restrictions and tougher expectations of people going through the canyon. Of course, it's good income for the country, keeps people in jobs. So I understand putting more people through, but people are less fit nowadays than they ever were, in general. So I think they maybe need to tighten up. Do they need to go back to the days when you had to have a guide going through the canyon? And you see, that's the thing to consider. If they carry on needing this helicopter getting people out, inevitably there's going to be a bigger accident, or there's going to be a serious accident, either with a helicopter, because it's not easy getting a helicopter, because the helicopter doesn't come into the canyon, by the way. The helicopter comes to a rescue point on the edge of the canyon. You still have to be taken up to the helicopter, and then the helicopter is basically to take you to the nearest hospital, not to take you out of the canyon. Just be aware of that. You still have to be carried, lifted, whatever, out of one of the exit points, and there's only a selected number of exit points along the route from wherever you are to the helicopter. Which also reminds me, get insurance. If you don't have insurance or the method to pay, they're not going to send you the helicopter. That's enough about Fish River Canyon for today. Prepare, enjoy.